Good afternoon, everyone. So, welcome to the AIMS Young Leader Sharing Session. And I welcome our President, Professor Nandagopal, who is present, and our speaker today, Professor N.R. Kennedy, and various other delegates who are present. I think we had a large number of participants today for this event, and the event happens to be a serious concern for most of the business schools on which the AIMS has been deliberating during the last two meetings. And we also have this important item on agenda for discussion even in our forthcoming board meeting scheduled the next week in Cochin. So it is in this regard, this topic is very important and inviting varied views in terms of stakeholders, which is very important. So it is in this direction, Professor N.R. Reddy, who has been invited to share his thoughts. Before that, it's customary on my part to introduce about AIMS for the knowledge of the members who joined today's event. AIMS has been in the helm of affairs for the last almost 30 years, doing for the cause of the management education and also promoting professionalism and protecting the interests of the member institutions. And we have various regulatory bodies. So the AIMS represents on behalf of the member institutions in terms of policy advocacy and various other promotional activities. So the AIMS has been very active, and especially in this particular year with Professor Nandagopal, who has taken over the president, has become more active. And the activities are now almost running every week. So there's no week which is left uncovered in terms of various activities that we are doing online as well as offline. So this, apart from this, I want to bring you to the notice of the members who are present today that the AIMS has been doing a lot of activities apart from annual convention, which is held at one place in India, wherein the faculty members as well as the students are invited as a key players in terms of paper presentations. So AIMS platform is not meant for only the faculty members, but also for the student leaders. So that is the aim with which the AIMS has been encouraging the students. And also there are a lot of promotional activities which AIMS has been doing in terms of encouraging the best business schools who have been doing well. The Best Business School Director Award. And similarly, in terms of Best Management Week, which is organized by any management institution, because all of them, they need to compete in the national convention, which is organized annually. So all such kind of activities of promoting activities of the students, the faculty members, the directors, the leaders, and also the leaders, I mean the management of various management institutions, and also the universities. So the university departments of MBA program also have been brought under the umbrella of AIMS. We have about 560 institutional lab members, but the AIMS is open for members which are institutional members. It's not for individual members. So the activities that are done have reached to the far and away in terms of having the impact where the members have been reporting to us back saying that this is a good event that has been organized. Apart from that, we have also regional meetings which are done. So AIMS is not confined to one region, though the headquarters is based in Hyderabad. But then we also have the regional centers, four regional centers, and where the regional board meetings are also organized. So it is in this direction AIMS trying to reach out to everyone and wherever it is important. And AIMS also gives funding for organizing seminars. The only thing is that they need to be at least an institutional member for 1 year. After that, they can apply for any kind of funding from the AIMS for organizing the seminars. Apart from that, even the research projects are also, this is the most important thing. In line with the new education policy, the research being the helm of affairs, AIMS started for the last almost a few years funding for research projects as well. So the AIMS is meant for only the institutional member, welfare and promotion of professional management, education and research. So this is the brief profile of AIMS. Now I come back to introduce our key speaker, Professor NRK, who has been known to me, NRK Reddy. He is shortly known as NRK. So in especially in Telangana, Andhra, he is known only as NRK. If I spell his full name, nobody would understand the full name. So Professor NRK Reddy has been known to me for the last 30 years. And I invited him also to go and once or twice and for various programs. And then I also participated in his programs. So Professor NRK Reddy has a very long, I would say, eminent personality in terms of proving his professional caliber as well as academic caliber. Professor NRK Reddy basically is MA Economics and Econometrics from Osman University. And he also did his MPhil as well as a PhD under Osman University. And that brings up his academic qualifications. But more than his academic qualification, he is a very good orator in terms of the subject of management, economics, and econometrics. And he had served various institutions before he started his own entrepreneurship in the form of Synergy School of Business. That was his last leg in terms of his career. But before that, he had worked in Shivani. He started with Loyola College in Hyderabad for a few years. And after that, he joined Shivani Institute of Management, which is well known to all of in South India aware of it. And he had, from the scratch, he has dealt with the institution to which now, today, it stands. That was all the contribution of Professor NRK Reddy. And the chairman recently in their Silver Jubilee, I think, has acknowledged the contribution of NRK Reddy for the development of Shivani Institute of Management. He's essentially a critical thinker, a different thinker. So he is not an ordinary person. And he did the same thing when he joined another business school in Hyderabad, which is I'm not able to recall now. Professor NRK, you can mention that name of that institution. Hello, NRK. You have to unmute you have not.
Yeah, Aurora Business School.
Aurora Business School.
Yes.
And that was at one stage it was in Dodra, and he has followed a turnaround strategy to bring that Aurora Business School into profiting institution. So where he served, and he did this after he came back from Singapore, where he worked, and right now he holds the citizenship of Singapore. And he had a wide experience of teaching BBA, MBA, and other courses across various countries, cross-cultural, because in internet, especially in Singapore, any university or business school will have students from worldwide. So he had that wide experience. He has brought all that experience back to Hyderabad, and then he started Synergy School of Business. I'm glad to associate with him because he invited me to join his Synergy School of Business when I returned back from Goa University. So therefore, I'm with him. I'm glad to introduce myself that I'm with Professor Reddy in Synergy School of Business. With this brief profile, now I would, before I hand over the session to him, I will speak only 2-3 lines of what he's going to cover and what we are expecting from him, which is more important. He is going to cover the current status of business education in India. And second thing, how do we improve if we have to take off from the stage where we don't want to live with and want to live with in future. So that is in terms of improvement in the quality of education in terms of the input quality of education in terms of the process of education, quality of improvement in terms of improvement in the output, which is more important. Today, the stress is more on the output, quality of output. And IIMs are known for quality of input because nobody, an ordinary person cannot get admission in IIMs. So there is nothing great about the input quality of IIMs and other national institutions. The problem with other B grade institution is about the input. And now how do you make this input turn out to be the best output? So that is the big challenge for all the business schools. And this is what exactly is the challenges that is going to share. And then the third aspect that is going to cover is in terms of the stakeholders' interest. And now in terms of NAP policy, there are a lot of threats that have come, and he's going to address a few points of how to take the interest of the stakeholders. And lastly, that is going to make a presentation in terms of how do you fill up the gap in terms of expectation of stakeholders and the new education policy. So this is what briefly Professor NRK is going to speak on. Now with this, Professor NRK, I invite you on the board of AIMS. I'm very glad that you have come for the first time on AIMS board. And now the session is over to you.
Thank you, Professor Ramesh. At the outset, I express my gratitude for giving me this opportunity to speak to a bigger forum, the very august body in the service of the management education for longer years. I thank the president of AIMS for his presence, and I thank all other members also. I hope I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're audible.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I think it's very inspiring. And I think the young leaders are also participating. So the future managers of this nation. So I feel I deem it as a privilege to be with this august body this afternoon. And I thank Professor Ramesh for his lovely introduction and exposing me to various institutions and people of higher nature. As we all know, the management education that we impart in this country, in terms of quantity, we are great, but in terms of quality, we are not so great. And how do we measure this? And in terms of metrics, the national and international global rankings of 2023 reveal that none of the the topmost institutions in our country are in the top 25 or 30. I think the earliest one is IIM Ahmedabad with 44 rank in the global QS global business education institutions in the country. So followed by, I think, 78th rank in India from Hyderabad ISB, and so on and so forth. So this gives an impression that the management education that we impart in the country is not anyway on any standard not comparable with the top institutions across the globe. And now the state of affairs, if you look at the management education, I call it the plight of the business education. The plight itself shows a negative connotation that we are not happy, we are not healthy, we are not able to deliver what is required for the industry. So my lecture consists of, today's session has got 4 components. The first component talks about the status of business education in India, in terms of its delivery, in terms of quality, in terms of expectations from the industry and all other stakeholders. The second part of the session talks about the structural change that we require. There's a need for the total revamp. And how do we do that? And what necessitated? And what is the emergence? And what is the need for that kind of change? Or rather, there's a need for a paradigm shift. And why? This is about the second component. The third is identifying the stakeholders and understanding the stakeholders' expectations. And most of the time, I see the expectations of the stakeholders are conflicting sometimes, and the expectations are not revealed. Some of the issues that we see in a lot of articles in the literature that has been published, that most of the student community and the parents are not aware of their own expectations. And it is a necessity, or it's a responsibility of the academic institutions and then the voluntary organizations like AIMS to tell them that is what a business school is expected to do, what a student is expected to do, and what are the roles and goals of each stakeholder. That's about the third component. And the fourth component is how do we bridge these gaps? And these are the 4 areas that are primary. The core of the discussion in this session. Coming to the status of management education in India, as we see a lot of students go abroad to pursue management education, and I'm really surprised to see the figures. And usually, when we look at the figures, one second, I'm just give me a minute's time. We have institutions under AICTE. So when we talk about the status of the institutions, we have AICTE approved institutions, almost about 4,069 institutions are approved by AICTE in 2022. Around 250,000 to 3 lakh students go abroad to study MBA alone. I repeat, the numbers are mind-boggling. 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs students go abroad to study MBA in other countries. That itself shows how the management education in other countries and why people go abroad and why people are not studying in India, number one. Number two, why we are not able to attract if not the same number, maybe here and there. We are not able to attract the students from other countries. Though we have the best of the best institutions like IIMs and IITians, and IITs and IIMs are known as best institutions. But why is that we are not able to attract the crowd from other countries, except from few nations like African nations? They come and join in some universities, but the best of the best, students don't come to us. For example, Harvard, Stanford, and people get students almost about the ranking wise 90 percentile. Of the students give the number one ranking for this Harvard and Stanford schools. And why not our IIMs? Why not for our Usmania University, Goa University? Why not other universities? Where are we going wrong? So out of the 4069 institutions approved by AICT, almost about 6 to 7 lakhs for all courses we have, but of which almost about 2.5 lakhs to 3 lakhs, which is a very major chunk, is planning to do their MBAs not in India but outside India. And this means a lot of money flowing out of this country. And our fee structure is lower. Our education quality, I don't talk about that quality as of now. In terms of the teachers, we have the best teachers when compared to others. Many of the Indian teachers, when they go abroad, they shine there. Why not in India? Students in management educations, almost around 403,000 students are there in 2022, of which the 3 lakhs people, roughly 2.5 lakhs, 3 lakhs roughly are interested in going abroad. And there are different kinds of institutions under AICT, and they are affiliated programs under the university, MBA programs, and there are postgraduate diploma programs offered by PGDM institutions which are independent. There are more than 395 PGDM institutions according to the recent estimates, and they have about 44,000 intake permitted by AICT. This is the picture that we have as far as the management education is concerned. Now, in terms of population, we are number one. From the last, I think, 2 months, we have crossed China and we are number one with 18% of the population share, and equal number by China. So if you look at the China also, except 2 institutions in the top 100 institution, 100 ranks, not many from China, but out of the top 10 institutions, if you look at the number one ranking, 5 institutions are from United States of America, and maybe another 5 are from Europe, 2 from UK, 2 from Italy, maybe 1 or 2 from other nations. 1 from, I think, UK, 2 from UK, 2 from Italy, and France. INSEAD is also included. I think 1 more institution in France. So when you look at the top 10 institutions, none of the Indian or Asian institutions are figuring. So this is what, this plight of business education in India and Asian nations. So that's why we need to understand where are we going wrong. Majority of the population, the number of schools in terms of quantity, things are very attractive in terms of number, quantity-wise, but in terms of quality, I think we are nowhere. Probably the regulatory bodies, I don't want to call it as a regulatory body because the very word regulation and controls, I think we need to give up those terminologies and then move. There is a need for a paradigm shift in terms of the language and the words that we consume. And I think instead of calling them as a regulatory bodies, I think we need to call them as a development authority or development, I think is the best and more appropriate to use rather than, controlling agencies, regulatory agencies like AICT. There's a lot of change in their, governance in terms of these apex bodies, but still that's not adequate enough. And I can quote few, examples here and there. So where we need to focus. And, for example, in engineering and management education, if you look at under technical institutions, we focus more on infrastructure. The institutions are measured in terms of age, not by old age. So age doesn't matter because, conventional institutions are existing for the last 100 years. But, when they don't change, I think the age doesn't matter. But, the stakeholders' expectations also, like student community, think that, older institutions are better institutions, are good institutions, because they also do not know on what parameters we can evaluate an institution. Is it the faculty? Is it the infrastructure or something else, or placement or industry exposure or the industry connectivity? These are the things on which they need to evaluate an institution, which is good or bad. The discerning ability of the student is not up to the standard. And all stakeholders, for that matter, they have expectations which are not required, and what they are supposed to expect, and that they are not expecting. For example, if you have good faculty, and no students will ask for it, and most of the teachers like me and you understand this, and the people want all modern facilities, air conditioned rooms, and maybe the gym facility on campus. All these are required, but that doesn't mean that only these things will make an institution. Sorry, these things cannot make an institution. And look at the regulatory bodies also to start an institution. And there are a lot of anomalies also. To start a college, business institution, or maybe an engineering college in urban center, it's a 2 acres area is enough. But in rural center, you require about 10 acres. And I don't understand. And to start an institution in terms of infrastructure, if you think that 2 acres is enough in urban center, when you go to rural areas, why this, the area changes? I don't understand. 2 acres space in urban center and 2 acres space in rural center is one and the same. Maybe in terms of price, it's a little expensive to buy in urban or maybe the metro cities than the other cities. But why this rule or regulation is there? And these are certain anomalies, because when you spend a lot of money on only buying the piece of land, and where is the money for you to build the software? Basically, the software is in terms of soft capital, the good faculty, and then the good library, the software that is required. And these require huge money. And that's where we need to focus more, instead of, buying a big piece of land and making it as a real estate, venture. So therefore, our regulation also need to change. I'm sorry to be more critical and upfront, but I think this is the need of the hour. We need to think. And I can quote, I was working in Singapore earlier. The total campus of, Singapore, university, national is that Singapore is about 400 acres. But, if you look at the business school, the Singapore Business School is, I think, established only on 10 acres, and James Cook University is on 2 acres. And they run an university, more than, 25, 30 colleges, 34 courses. And, they have more than 5,000 students. So this is how they run the institution. They are not focused on only the infrastructure. You can, build vertically the buildings, and instead of, occupying more space. And therefore, I think there is a need for rethinking from the regulatory bodies or the developmental authorities. That's one area that we need to look at. And now, when we come to the second component, the first component, and I conclude that there is a grim picture, and there is a lot of scope for development in management education in India, but still the organizations like AIMS and other related organizations are struggling, and representing to the authorities like AICT and Government of India. I don't think they're taking the full support of these economic voluntary organizations like AIMS to build the management education. I think that's one area we need to strengthen, and we need to increase our voice. And I think there's a need for concerted effort and to pursue this further, so that we can strengthen the management education. And see, they look at the quality of education. The quality of education we need to look at the quality education in terms of quality in terms of inputs. So how do you measure the input quality? The percentage of students applying. So for each seat, how many people are competing? That's one parameter. These are the certain standard procedures we need to maintain, and standards that we need to set forth. And so how many students are competing for one seat? In IIMs, I think getting a seat in IIM is much more difficult than getting a seat in international institutions like Harvard. That's what my feeling, because CAT examination is very, very hard. and people spend 2 years, 3 years continuously to get into the so-called the great institutions in India like IIMs, IITs. And we have the best of the best students coming into this. I have seen the students of other countries, and they are not like Indian students in terms of their understanding, the intellectual capacity or IQ levels. On all parameters, Indian students are rated the best. And I had a student opportunity to teach almost about I think 16, 17 country students in a cross cultural class. But I find the Indian students are the best. But when our students are good and our faculties are also good, and why we are not able to compete with them? That's a million-dollar question. And for everything, we blame the governments, we blame the administration and things of that kind. But there are a lot of gaps, and we will identify those gaps in the last part of the session, and then we may probably suggest a few recommendations too. That's about the first component. Second component is the quality in terms of inputs, as I mentioned. And input quality basically talks about how many students and which background they come from, how many engineers are applying for management. Most of the IITians after their graduation go to IIMs. But except that IITians and IIMs, but all other institutions, MBA degree is meant for BCom, BBA students, not for engineers. So this kind of the watertight compartments and lack of integration of the interdisciplinary courses is one reason why management education is not getting recognized and not getting its due share. For example, an engineering student with a mathematics background can do better in business analytics. And the course curriculum that we design is not very innovative in terms of curriculum. We always focus on the functionality and the functional specializations, but we need to look at the sectoral specializations. We need to go for super speciality, in terms of specializations. I think innovation in terms of curriculum development, innovation in terms of delivery, innovation in terms of the value addition that we make at every level. So input quality is very, very essential. Unless the input is qualitative, you cannot churn out a good quality output. So the input quality in terms of entrance tests that we conduct, and most of the entrance tests that we conduct are based on, look at all entrance tests that we conduct, including the civil services examination. And I am sorry to make this statement, the civil servants are expected to work in the rural areas. But most of them are not familiar with that local language. And most of the questions that they answer in the civil service examinations are in terms of mathematical reasoning and those kind of things. But they do not have a proper understanding about agriculture, because most of the people are placed in a district headquarters, and they are supposed to deal with the people, those who are dealing with agriculture. But unfortunately, these people are very new and novice to the agriculture sector, and they don't speak their language, and so on and so forth. And this way, management education tests are no way different. And most of the mathematics students and engineers are able to crack CAT examination than the other students, because in business education, you require mathematical abilities and then test of reasoning and those skills, but they're at a primary level. But business acumenship or business knowledge and reading newspapers like Economic Times, Financial Express, and what's happening in the business sector, and most of the engineering students are not aware. But when they get a seat, and all those engineers get into the top management institutions because of their mathematics background. But you do not use more of mathematics in management education. All those who are doing extremely well in entrance examinations, I conducted some research study. I have taken 10 years of the toppers in my entrance examination, where I was working as a director of a business school earlier, and their total performance in the course and how they are doing. But there is no correlation between the top 10 rankers in the past 10 years and then the academic performance in the business education. Therefore, there's a need for a change in terms of the test that we conduct as an entrance examination. I think there's a more focus on mathematics and then reasoning kind of, I understand that there's a decision making is a major responsibility of a manager, but not too much of mathematics and quantitative background. I think that's one area. And once you decide that this is the input that I require, these are the qualities that I expect in a student. Accordingly, change your test paper and then test battery, and accordingly conduct the exam, and you get the best students suitable for your program. That's one. And that's about input. And how many students, female male ratio, and how many freshers, how many are experienced people, and what is their background, how many engineering students, how many arts students, how many social sciences students, and so on and so forth. If you have a proper mix in the class, freshers, experience, and all that, I think that will make a good class. And a classroom is not mere just four walls, and we make the future of the students there. Therefore, we ensure that the classroom is competitive, and there's a possibility for peer group learning also. When experienced people are there in the class, the learning and then the tempo that we maintain in the class while delivering is also different. I think these things we need to take into account. And I see any international business school, people come from 50 countries, 100 countries, and people apply. That was our past, when you have a university like Takshila, and those days, and we had students from more than 150 countries, and the decay of education started because of the Macaulay's education system, and we are still, I think, operating on that Macaulay's system. And I think there's a need for a change, and we always follow the Western kind of a theories, Western kind of management styles, etc., etc. And we have our own styles of management, and the Indian school of thought, Indian management thought, Indian, leadership. I think this is the kind of, business education probably is more relevant to India and Indian industrial conditions. I think we need to look at that and change our styles of management and the pedagogy that we use. And coming to the next quality is our faculty. And IIMs produce the best of the best. IITs produce the best of the talent in the country. And of course, they are very powerful even across the globe. But you see, the one question that I pose here is why these toppers or these great, brilliant people coming out of these best of the best institutions are not joining the same institutions as a faculty. You see, you accept that the IIMs and IITs are producing the best, and you are not taking that best as a teachers because they don't want to work as a teachers there because you don't pay them. I think that's where if someone earns X salary, I think you got to give X square or X plus, and therefore they are bound to work there, and there should be an attraction to attract the good talent. And that's, I think, the government and regulatory bodies should ensure that the teachers are paid more than anybody. So that's how I think we will be able to attract the best talent, and best faculty can convert the best input into the final, process it into final, output. That's one area all the regulatory bodies need to think, and all the toppers and all the brilliant students need to be put them as a teachers first by giving them the good and fat salary. That's one suggestion that I can make. In terms of quality, one is input quality, the faculty quality, and then the pedagogy. Pedagogy is very important. Most of the time, see, in terms of quantum, we need to move from the quantity to quality. For example, I have seen many of the business schools. I taught in James Cook University, Victoria, Flinders, Newcastle, Northumbria, many universities, but nowhere most, these institutions offer more than 12 to 15 subjects in their 2-year program. But in India, we have a trimester program. In every semester, we have 8 subjects. So 24 subjects in the first year, another 24 subjects in the second year. For every 3 months, you conduct a test. And for every test, you need 10 days of preparation holidays. And after the test, again, you need 1 week of semester break. And this trimester program, and bombarding with the too much of knowledge, and all the teachers are already always in busy schedule of teaching rather than testing. So either teaching or testing. And I think we don't give time to the students to think about and ponder over the ideas. We don't ask them to do the capstone. We don't ask them to do, because every work is done by the teacher rather than the student. And the contribution of the teacher should not exceed 10%. 90% of the work should be done by the student through internships, to the research-based projects, and through participation, through discussion, case studies, etc. I think it is exactly the reverse in India. That's one of the reasons why our output that we produce is not qualitative. Theoretically, they are very sound, but unless you do again and again, you don't get that skill. So skilling is important. And we don't have a de-skilling also. De-skilling, today I go to the lecture and deliver what comes to my mind. Tomorrow I go, again I deliver something else. So instead of that, if you have a standard system, certain PPTs and certain levels and certain quality, certain procedures, and this is what is the minimum, the threshold limit need to be taught to the student. And most of the teachers, out of my experience, I am telling you, the first chapter is taught for about 2 months, and the last 2 chapters or last 4 chapters are taught in 1 month in a trimester program. And this is how the delivery process is being designed. I think we need to have controls on that. So skilling and de-skilling. When I say de-skilling, is a necessary on the part of the the teacher to confine and put a border that this is what I'm going to teach today. This is what is for the next class, like that. Teaching, learning plans, etc. There are few institutions they are following, but not many institutions, especially under the conventional education system. So quality in terms of delivery, quality in terms of testing. I think there's a lot of focus on testing in India. I think we need to change from there. So testing can be a modern method. It can be through experiential learning. You can make them learn, not necessarily through lecture mode or case study. Case study is also more or less outdated now. There are various new methods of pedagogy, and you got to discover and innovate every time a new pedagogy. I think the storytelling has become a new method of pedagogy. So, for example, look at the Panchatantra story. There are 3 fishes story. And first fish, when somebody was murmuring that, there are good fishes here, we can catch them and, make a feast tomorrow morning. One wise fish heard this, and 2 rest of the fishes were informed about it. And the second fish said that it is not, possible. And I heard a lot of things like this, and we cross the bridges when we reach, and they neglected. So the next day morning, the disaster happened, and it was caught, and then it was killed. The third fish learned from the second fish, when it is, shaking in the hands of the fisherman, and he hit the floor, and then it was profusely bleeding and died. The third fish learned from this. The first strategy, a proactive strategy that the fish learned, and then in advance they escaped from there. The second is a crisis. The second is reactive strategy. So after getting into the hands of the fisherman, try to escape, and it's not possible, so it was killed. The third one is learning from both, and I think it was hiding, and it appears like a dead fish, and then the fisherman thinks that it is already dead, and then neglected. In the meantime, it jumped into the waters and escaped. This is called a crisis management strategy. If you are using this, these kind of examples and kind of stories in telling them the different kinds of strategies that you need to follow in business, I think people can easily understand. We don't need to look at our own stature or what kind of level that we teach. We need to go to the level of the students and teach. And the best teacher is one who simplifies. I think for me, who is a teacher? The teacher is one who simplifies excellence. I think that's one sentence. That's enough for us to define a teacher. A good teacher is one who simplifies excellence. So this is how the new pedagogy. And see, we are not asking them to write pages and pages. And see, in every testing, there are 3 different levels. One is at the conceptual level. The second one is at the comprehension level. The third level is application level. When you put a question to the student and say marketing strategy, what do you understand by marketing strategy? And that's the first level anybody can understand as a conceptual level. The second level, what are the different marketing strategies that you can apply in your business, and how you apply this marketing strategy in a hospitality industry or a hospital sector or healthcare sector and so on and so forth, by giving an example of a company like Apollo. I think that's how the students will understand the concept and they comprehend and then write different strategies of marketing. The third is the application. If you ensure that these 3 levels are there in every question, I think testing is the best, and people will enjoy writing the examination. And
Jose Anarchy?
Yeah.
Jose Anarchy.
Yes.
And now we have come close to the
Yes,
time
yes.
factor.
I take 2 minutes. Can I close in 2 minutes?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this is about the the quality, and in terms of input quality, process quality, and output quality. When you ensure the two qualities, input and process, the output quality is a residual. I think it got to be the best quality. That's one. And then as far as the stakeholders are concerned, the third component, I got to conclude in 3 minutes. So 2 minutes. So I will rush through. And the stakeholders are parents, the teachers, and then the society at large, and industry, and the government organizations and agencies. Now, the conflicting interest, sometimes they don't know what they need to expect. So every student has got an expectation. The student expectation is always a placement. I think the most of the institutions have become a placement agencies. I think we need to deviate from there. And academic institutions don't need to place the student. When you deliver the goods, and when you make the best of the best students, and the companies come forward and pay us money for coming to the campus as a registration fees and take our students, which happens in top management institutions across the globe. So that's, I think, one. And, parents' expectations in terms of the return on investment, how much is the money that we pay to the business school, and how much is the salary that I get in how many years I can clear off my bank loan, whatever. So money that I borrow. So these are some of the expectations. So, number one, threshold limit. And if you give them what they expect, they are happy. So they are. If you give them more than what they expect, I think they are delighted. So you need to look at the customer delight in terms of quality of these institutions process in terms of the outputs. You got to look at the service quality. And after all, what we do is a service, and the service quality, the perceptions about the service, and how the people are expecting. And there is an expectation and there is a delivery, and between the two, if there is a match and the people are happy, and then they get a job. And similarly, from the industry, there is an expectation from an academic institution, and there is also the delivery from the academic institution. So expectations and delivery should match always. So these are the some of the gaps that we look at is knowledge gap is one. Standards gap, we don't fix certain standards and standard operating procedures and benchmarking. And even if they are there, the delivery, we sometimes miss that. So delivery gaps. And then the communication gaps, what we tell the students and what we communicate and what they understand is different. So these are the gaps. And the last but not the least is the satisfaction gap. So what they finally feel and what we expect them to feel, and there's a difference. If we are able to bridge these 5 gaps, I think you can easily do that. And for that, you require reliability of the service that you make, and then the kind of assurance that you give in terms of placement or delivery, whatever. In terms of the tangibility, whatever quality things that you deliver, probably you can tangibilize them. And you need to have an empathy, put into their shoes and think as a student what he expects, as an industry person what he expects, as a parent what he expects. I think when you have that empathy, and for all this you require responsiveness. When you have responsiveness, then the quality can be improved. So these are some of the recommendations, are probably the gaps that we can bridge through concerted effort from the different stakeholders. So with this, I thank Professor Ramesh and other members of the AIMS for giving me this opportunity, and the floor is open probably for the question and answers now. So thank you one and all for your patient listening.
Thank you, Professor Reddy. And I was trying to look in the chat box. I'm not able to find any kind of questions except the compliments that are come. I don't know, Sunil, you can help me. Or even NRK, you can also check your chat box if I'm missing. Because all the messages, what I see are only compliments. I have not found any questions. One second. Yeah. And now we started seeing some questions. So how NEP could impact management education? That is one question that has come from Dr. Rajshekhar.
Okay. Dr. Rajshekhar, NEP, I'm not very sure how this NEP is going to impact. I think we are interested in slow progress. I think for uh, improving the quality of management education, I think the changes that we brought in NEP will bring in a little progress probably. If you want to compete with the others, I think there's a need for a branding, and we got to be there in the top 10 or 15 in the ranking. For that we need to have a concerted effort. I think this NEP is not going to do a great help. Maybe a little progress we can achieve, but the structural change or the kind of a paradigm shift that we expect, I don't think it's possible through this NEP.
Okay, thank you, Dr. NRK. And I need to make a very important announcement to all the participants that you need to fill the feedback form quickly, which will be available only in 15 minutes. And then only after you fill the feedback form, then only you are eligible to receive the certificate. So please ensure that. Okay. Dr. NRK, there is one more question.
Oh, sure.
From Dr. Kavita Sastry. What is the best strategy faculty adopts in the present scenario? What is the best strategy faculty adopts in the present scenario?
Yeah, I think faculty in the classroom is rather than information giver or maybe a brilliant answers every student expects from the faculty, but the role of a faculty is simply a facilitator. And when we understand that we are a facilitator, I think we need to make them experience the theory that we teach them in the class. So therefore, I think experiential learning, a participative learning, and asking them to go to an industry and ask them to find out the problem. This kind of learning through internships, and most of the time people think that teachers know everything. The answer is no. Teachers don't know anything. And when we get into the topic and we also start learning, see, when we are discovered, a PhD guide is guiding the student, and a PhD guide also start learning from then only. Because of his age and experience, probably he can grasp things and anticipate the issues and solutions very quickly than the student. I think a good student will understand this. I think the best method that we need to adapt is a participative learning, and make the students learn on their own by doing.
Okay, maybe I do not know what is the scope with which the question was best in putting, and best strategy in terms of what in the present circumstances of regulatory bodies and other things, and especially when the quality of input and output is more stressed. So what kind of strategy the faculty have to do that? And I'm sure you're going to add one more point on the point what I raised.
Yeah, I think, we are basically talking about the roles and goals and what a student is expected to do and what a teacher is expected to do in the class. And I think a teacher's job is done because we got to prepare and deliver. And most of the time, students expect their job also to be done by the teachers. And that is what is happening in Indian system, because, the culturally and, the parental figure, Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Atithi Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, all these Bhavas. So therefore, he thinks that I am customer of Bhava, I am your customer, you got to do everything for me. So this is the kind of approach that the student, and most of the students, do their assignments one day before or 1 hour before the, deadlines, and most of the time they expect the teacher to deliver. So I think we need to change that. I taught students of other countries, but the problem is not there. And though they are not brilliant, they put in their best effort and spend time on doing their assignments. And, when we mark them saying that, this is not up to the standard, they very humbly accept that and then do another assignment and asking them for 2-3 days of extra time. They do it. And they spend about 50 to 100 hours on doing every assignment. And there are a few courses where there's no examination. There's only, discussion and, research report. And I think open book system. And we need to introduce those kind of, things also in testing instead of 3 hours of examination. So marks orientation, exam orientation, job orientation, these are our impediments in building our management education. Therefore, we need to, remove those blockades first. And then I think management education. Above all, these academic institutions need freedom. Freedom to design curriculum. Freedom always goes with the responsibility. And as the PGDM institutions are doing better than non-PGDM institutions, with the due respects, some of the universities are also doing well, I'm not saying, but that is specific to a particular department. Maybe management departments are doing well in the university, but non-management institutions are not doing so within the university. Therefore, there's a need for a creation of new pedagogy, creation of innovative thoughts, and I think these are the things that is very much required to bring up this education to the next level.
Yeah, thank you. And okay, and one more question from Yogendra Dubey. Experienced faculty should be hired. Extra session must be kept. Different guest lectures should be kept. This is what the Yogendra Dubey.
I think there is an answer in his question, but it is not true always. All experienced teachers, you see, when I become, earlier, the lecturers are lecturers, and when you become a reader and you start reading in the class. So when you become a professor, you stop reading in the class. So this is what was in the conventional system earlier. But now I think young teachers are doing better than many experienced teachers. And experience, first day what we get, and we simply continue that for many years. And experience is needed every day, because what you gain as an experience will not continue, because the dynamics are changing. You see, artificial intelligence and the technology and the dynamics of the business, the retailing has gone and retailing has come. So many changes are happening. Therefore, you need to be on toes all the time. You got to be a continuous learner. And, in software industry, it happens, unless you certify, you are not, you write an examination, get the certification. Once in 2 years, you're not hired. So why not the same thing for academic institutions also? So you got to be always on toes. And you need to know and update the knowledge. For example, if you do economics course and then you don't get, if you do similar kind of a course and you don't get, the exemption for that economics. If it is a 2 years, you get an exemption. If you study with economics 2 years before, and you got to redo that, because in every 2 years, they expect that the subject matter changes. Therefore, though you are a PhD in economics, to teach a particular course, you got to get the certification, and that's how you are allowed to get into the school. With all my PhD and professorship, and I was a dean. When I went to Singapore, they made me wait for 30 days to get an approval from Ministry of Human Resources to get into the BBA class of first year. That's the standard that Singapore follows. After credentials are evaluated and after a demonstration lecture is given, then they certified, and 31st day probably I entered into the class.
Yeah, one more question from. I don't know. It is a Redmi 7A. Name of the person is not mentioned.
Okay.
The mobile number is given as the name nomenclature. Under the pattern of examination currently that we follow, how flexible can teacher be in giving experiential learning, exam-oriented approach in India?
Yeah. I think we have covered this partially. So the focus should not be on the marks and examinations. The focus should be on the learning and problem solving, decision making. And if you put them in the industry for about 3 months, an internship, and come back and make a presentation, I think 60 students will go to 60 industries and come back and make presentation. I think peer group learning, and they get to know about 60 different industries. I think that's more than any individual lecture can deliver. And when we do our projects, our projects are saleable. Why students spend 2 months of summer internship and the project is not even sold for 1 rupee? And if you are able to sell your project report for 200,000, I think the student will understand that my work is respected. And instead of doing a free internship, I think that's where we need to practice business even in business schools instead of preaching. Our project report should be sellable, and we should be able to sell. For example, in a particular industry, say retail industry, if some student does a project, I think all retail industry people need to look at that and to expand their businesses further, to know their loopholes. And if it is sellable, I think they should pay premium to this report and then buy from the student. Then he will understand that my labor is respected. And he got to do that kind of a quality work. And that way the teacher got to, guide the student to produce such a quality, report. And why do we send students free of cost to the industry, and we don't need to undersell their labor? I think this is how we need to think. And then my students are not free, they are not slaves, and we don't allow our students to do any free projects. And industry also expects this. And go-getters and excellent communication, I pay 10,000 rupees. I said, hell with that. And who will pay, who will work for 10,000 rupees with their money for, internship for 2 months coming to your office? Nobody will do it. And we don't encourage that in our school. Unless you pay minimum 25,000 a month, my students are not available. They are not slaves. You got to respect their labor. When you command this will happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, there's another Redmi 7A mobile number.
Okay.
No name. And I don't know. Perhaps this person must be from Goa.
Okay.
Who asked this question. MFS at a Goa University launched under Dr. Ramesh did try to bring the change with complete one semester internship, but not all are doing it. So I don't know what it is. Okay, but that is understandable. I don't want to stress on you and don't want you to answer on that. The answer is known to everyone. And then one more question. I think the biggest, this is from Dr. Amba Behari. I think the biggest problem is the mafia of the top management, the lack in taking risk to match international standards.
I'm not very sure whether we can use that word mafia. There's nothing like survival of the fittest.
Sorry, not mafia. Myopia.
Okay.
Y-O-P-I-A.
Okay, myopia. Yeah. I think the blurred view of the management education. We think that the management education abroad is so great, and why it can't be great? Because the governance is the major problem, and as Adam Smith rightly puts it in 1776 in Magnum Opus, Wealth of Nations, the best governance has got the least interference. I think PGDM institutions are doing better than the other institutions. I think because they have a little freedom to design their curriculum. Within the UGC system, the autonomous institutions are doing well than non-autonomous. So under this, I think with this experience, we can say that the institutions need more freedom to design their curriculum and delivery process and let them experiment. Experimentation is needed in every level. And once we give them the freedom, I think the quality of education will automatically improve. And the survival of the fittest, the neo-Darwinism will prevail always. And I think those who are able to survive, they survive. Those who are not able to survive, they get into the history. They perish over a period of time.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Reddy, for your elaborate presentation and also answering very patiently all the queries. And now it's time for me to propose a word of thanks for you. And before that, I just briefly summarize what Professor Reddy has deliberated during the last 45 minutes in terms of the management education current scenario and what should be the future line of education. And as I said in the beginning, this was the topic on which the AIMS has been deliberating very seriously during the last few months, and we are going to shortly make a policy advocacy to the AICT, because in NEP 2020, there was no mention about the either MBA or PGDM education. It was a general education. There was no specific mention about the management education, and that's where exactly we are a bit concerned of making specific inferences, whether it was missed by chance or deliberately, whatever it is. But then as a professional body like AIMS, in one of your references, you have mentioned the bodies are not taking, management bodies are not taking proactive role. But I need to correct your statement. I say as far as the AIMS is concerned, yes, we are doing that. Maybe you are not aware of it, but then we are doing it. And all our past successful presidents, plus the current president, who is also more active, we have been closely interacting with the chairman of AICT. And not only chairman of AICT, with the other regulatory bodies. Now, I think all these regulatory bodies are going to come into one umbrella, as you are aware of it. Okay. So, but still we are continuing to do that. And Professor Nandagopal is doing his efforts in taking up the recommendations of what aims should protect the interests of the AICT recognized institution, PGDM institutions, especially in terms of the regulations that have been brought in and imposed in terms of NEB. There are big challenges and threats. And we have been deliberating, but though we have done 2 meetings, but still we have not concluded on that. And now next board meeting also is going to take up that issue. And then after the next board meeting, we are going to take in the form of a formula to the AICT what should be the role of advocacy as far as the AIMS is concerned, after taking into account the interests of all the stakeholders what you have mentioned. And now the first stakeholder is the AICT institutions itself, because the very existence of AICT institution has come under threat, especially with the new education policy allowing the foreign universities to come up and set up their offices in India. And that is the biggest challenge for all the AICT institutions offering PGDM program in India, including the Synergy School of Business. Though you may survive on your own strength in terms of your credibility, but then facing the international challenges and threats is a bigger issue, for which you require a kind of protection. And I'm not saying protection, but a kind of support, because you don't believe in the word like regulation and protection and all that. It is a support, or at least sympathizing. So that is what it is going to be the role of AICT, and we are working on that. And I think your inputs have given us a lot of clues in preparing our document. I'm sure our President Ramaswamy Nandagopal has been present throughout the session till now. And now we have taken a very valuable clues from your presentation in terms of the present scenario. And it is really mind-boggling. In fact, we have deliberated on this issue where 2.5 lakh students were going abroad for doing management program. And now we fail to understand what is the craze of doing management program, except that what I believe and what the analogy is in terms of the results also, all the students who are going for abroad for doing these courses is not to come back to India, but also to follow up a procedure in terms of getting the internships and then job placements and getting visa there. And out of 2.5 lakh students, majority of them were for US, followed by Canada. So these are the 2 countries which have attracted these 2.5 lakh students. And green patches available for them. So we can't stop them. And these are the rich cream of people who can afford to pay. Though they have become eligible to get the admission, but then they are able to pay the fee, what they are supposed to pay. Fine. But then that is a cost to the exchequer to the country. Now we have another paradoxical situation where we are allowing, in terms of new education policy, foreign universities coming to India and setting up their shops here. Now we have a double game that we need to face. One, our Indian students going abroad. Second thing, Indian students going to the foreign universities started in India. So that's where we need to have our own strategy. I don't know, being a strategist, turnaround strategies. I think you need to apply your mind on this aspect as well. And I want you to give your viewpoint very clearly. So far, what you have mentioned, our Indian students going abroad. Then now with the foreign universities coming to India.
Can I intervene for a second? Yeah. I think all students, those who wanted to go, are not able to go because the education is pretty expensive there. Those who are capable of paying, they are going. Those who are not capable of paying here, they come and deliver the same education here at a low price for 2 semesters or 3 semesters here. 4th semester, they take them there with a little fees, and then they award the degrees there. So finally, they wanted to capture the entire education market into the their universities, because they don't have population there to have so many academic institutions there. Therefore, their target is India and China, and our students, those who pay and then go and get 4 semesters there. Otherwise, 3 semesters here, the final semester there, they get graduation there. That's their strategy.
No, I'm sorry. As far as I understand, when the foreign universities are allowed to set up their shops here, I don't use the word shops, educational institutions, all the semesters have to be done in India. So there's no question of going abroad. And that is what the NEP has envisaged. In terms of foreign universities coming to India and setting up their shops here. So then in India, they are going to do that. The question is, what kind of fee they charge, what kind of standards they maintain, and what kind of faculty, because you have given 3. One is input quality, and the processes, and the output. All these 3 we have to see in terms of these foreign universities which are coming to India, and do it in India in terms of input, processes, and output. All these 3 aspects we have to count on that. But as far as I understand, the NEP does not allow foreign university to offer any kind of final semester outside. They have to be in India only. So that is what I understand. Now, with that kind of thing, and then the fee that they prescribe, the government of India has given clearance very clearly that the government, either regulatory bodies or government of India, is not going to come to the place of regulating the fee. Not only the fee, but also in terms of what they may call as a profit, and they can send it back without coming under the purview of FEMA. This is a serious point, what I have stressed in my last meeting in the AIMS also, and now I'm repeating again here. So the foreign universities, the fact that when they are given the freedom to repatriate the profits, so that means that the educational institutions, what foreign universities setting up, are coming here to make profits. Otherwise, the concept of repatriation of profit doesn't come into the picture. Correct. So they are allowed to repatriate the profits, and which will not attract the FEMA rules and regulations. That is a serious issue here. And that's where the threat of Indian educational management institutions are feeling. Yes. So I don't know what is the answer for this. Till now, we have not got an answer on this.
Okay.
Right. Apart from that, I think you have elaborated, and I close it in 2 minutes, and we have already crossed the time. Yeah. For the benefit of the members, I apologize. I close it in 2 minutes. Plus, NRK has really made an impression in terms of top management institutions which have figured in India, not in terms of their uh, quality of what I would say, input is one thing, processing another thing, output is another thing. Now, when you compare across institutions, the institutions which filters the input, like in the industry, we have top quality tests for accepting the inputs that we take. Unless the input stands for the test, we will not accept that input and raw material, whatever it is, we reject. So it is not eligible for processing further for product process. So is the case which happens in IIMs where they have a very vigorous test for input quality testing. Now, apart from that, we have other two-tier institutions, three-tier institutions in India. So where do they stand? So whatever input is rejected from one institution will come to the another institution. That's how the takeover happens from one institution to another institution. But then finally, what I believe is that there is nothing like input quality when it comes to human beings. Unfortunately, we are comparing the raw material with the human beings. Human beings are different. What you are at one point of time need not be the same at a different point of time. So that is the difference one should believe in. And we have excellent examples of human beings that have been turned out from the low grade institutions who have started the ventures and then become the world leaders. We have a number of examples. So therefore, testing of the quality of the inputs at the beginning is not important. So that I want to denounce in this, which means that that gives in advocacy that testing of this kind of thing in terms of whatever process that you have is not correct. And another point, what is also mentioned, very interesting, the difference between urban areas and rural areas in terms of 2 acres of land in urban areas and 10 acres of land in rural areas. The skill development is done the same way, whether it is 2 acres land or 10 acres land. Only the infrastructure buildings spread it. And now if you see most of the engineering colleges which have constructed huge buildings infrastructure without the faculty, and they are non-functional and no admissions in the engineering colleges. So that speaks about the volume that mere creation of infrastructure is not an answer. It is a creation of intellectual assets, intellectual property, which is more important. Even if you don't have buildings, if you have created an intellectual faculty, I think your institution will earn galore in terms of the credibility. So, and that's the important point what NRK has mentioned. And one more point, what he has mentioned is in terms of IKS, Indian Knowledge System. I think the management system and the government of India in terms of NEP also, IKS has been pronounced very clearly that all our Indian education systems have to be brought down to the track of our IKS, Indian Knowledge System. That means you need to relate. So it so happened that most of our knowledge systems have been hijacked by various foreign institutions in terms of the patent rights and so on. But then we need to bring back our Indian knowledge system to its origin. IKS has been the important policy of new education policy. I think NRK has really touched on this point. And finally, faculty talent acquisition is the most important thing because it is not infrastructure alone. The faculty is more important, which I've said little earlier. Faculty is more important. Infrastructure in terms of building and then laboratory facilities for science subjects and so on, engineering subject. But then the faculty is the core strength of an institution. And if you don't pay the faculty, if you don't get the intellectual faculty, if you don't pay them, then whatever big infrastructure that we have, most of the private universities believe in creating infrastructure unparalleled to state university. We have a number of examples, not only in Telangana and Andhra, but elsewhere in the entire country. They have unparalleled infrastructure compared to state universities. But then what they miss is the intellectual property, which is more important. So they can't strive on that. Unfortunately, they don't believe in. And the UGC somehow also, though they come under the purview of UGC, because I have worked for a short while in a private university, but then unfortunately UGC somehow does not recognize the loopholes in this kind of private universities. So the private universities function and enjoy their prospects. But this is the most important thing. And now when we are talking about new education policy, this kind of prosperity should not enlarge. And that is what I am more concerned about it. And the last point of what Professor NRK has said is in terms of pedagogy that needs to be built. And pedagogy today, we, as he has already mentioned, that 20% is the classroom, 50% is the self-learning, and then remaining 30% is on the job. And that is the kind of pedagogy that we need to build. It is not classroom. Classroom dominance of classroom teaching has to be denounced now. It has to be more in terms of self-learning and more in terms of industry internship. And with this kind of pedagogy, I think we can really do wonders, whatever we do it. And there are a lot of institutions which have experimented without even following the regulations. And I'm sure that we have to take the cue of them. And this is what one of the examples said. One semester of our MBA Financial Services was considered to be a corporate internship, which was unknown in the Goa University in the year 2000 January. Now we are in 2023, 23 years back. I've done that. And then the academic council, all the people started fighting on me. How can you leave the students without attending classrooms in the final semester? But then I have gone through all that. And today, that department has now become the most prominent and has become now Go Business. So I'm telling you, where if you have perseverance and determination, you can excel. I'm sure that NRK, with his vision for developing Synergy School of Business, I think next year he's going to be on the forefront of taking forward the Synergy School of Business. I wish him all the best. And as a partner with you, I will also wish you. And now I thank you, Professor, all of you, and Professor NRK, and all the delegates who have listened patiently, exceeding the time limit today for the first time. Normally we close it in 1 hour 10 minutes, but today it has crossed the time limits. I'm sorry for testing your patience and very glad that all of you have been patient enough to listen to all of us. Thank you very much. And then if NRK was to say one thing. Over to you, Anna.
Okay. Thank you very much. I thank the audience and I thank the organizers to give me this opportunity. And it was an excellent exposition of Professor Ramesh, and he has managed the session extremely well. And I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, one and all.